Let's give a, and on top I put 3 pointers that will recap what we learned until now. Like this, we can jump into today's topic. So until now, we've been discussing the paradigm of a student-teacher, which brought us to highlight the virtue of students, which is the hunger of knowledge. That's really the virtue of a student. The student is not everyone can allow themselves to call themselves the name student. It's a special name. It's a name that we have to earn. And you earn it through demonstrating that hunger. That's really what a student is. A student is a conscious effort, not a passive listening. We spoke about that. That led to a discussion on the 3 stages of change, which is really what happens with a student and teacher. The first stage is awareness. Everything starts, we talked about branding a second ago, right? Everything starts with awareness. How do you sell a brand? First thing is awareness, whatever you have to sell. Awareness change leads to a change of perception. Oh, now I see things in a certain way. Perception allows the pain to take its course in the sense of perseverance. So perception leads to perseverance, which is allowing yourself to change to this new thing that you have now encountered. If it's in branding, so you're going to wait in line for a coffee a half an hour and be excited that you're waiting in line, although you're waiting in line, and usually you can be upset when you wait in line. No, I'm waiting for this coffee. I remember I was in LA once and I saw a big line. I was told this is a hot dog stand. People wait in line an hour for a hot dog. It's a special hot dog. They wait in line, you see like a whole line. There's hot dog stands around the corner. I need this hot dog. Okay? So perception leads to perseverance, and they're very excited in line. They're not upset because they're soon going to have their hot dog. So you have perseverance. So it's how you look at it. Some people are going to be in line. Hey, no, I understand. I have to wait in line. It's not special. I have to wait in line. It's just what it is. So suddenly you're persevering. You don't feel the pain as pain. We talk about teething, giving birth, like the example you gave. It all fits into that paradigm. And that eventually that leads to the third step, which is giving birth to the reality. Today, I want to demonstrate how the challenges we all face in life, and I started highlighting them in the last 2 classes. I highlighted them as 4 challenges, and today I'm going to go into the specifics of each one. So we're going to have today's class and tomorrow's class. Today's class is going to focus logically, not spiritually, logically. Technically, this can be a class that common sense should come to this conclusion. Although common sense is not common, but it should be common sense. In Chassidus and Kabbalah, this is a topic which is immensely talked about. It's stressed enormously because it really highlights what a human is. Most people look at humans in the sense of talents, expectations. Studies show this is, you're good at it, you're not good at it. This is for me, this is not for me. They already put themselves into a box. Kabbalah and Chassidus doesn't allow ourselves to put a human into a box. Really, we're made out of rotzon. Rotzon is passion, desire. And desire is all about not being in a box and being able to go out of any box you put me into. And it's 2 systems of how a person can view the world. And I'm going to demonstrate how all the challenges we come across, if we take the world in the lenses of studies show, let me see what kind of IQ you have. Let me see what you're good at. We're really limiting people. And that's when the word challenge has a connotation of a heaviness, and I'm stuck, I can't. Of course you can't, because you said you can't. So you go, and then you can't. You started off with the whole lenses and how you looked at the world is I can't. So then you're gonna end up with I can't. I can't is I can't. But if you start off with I can, and not as a lingo, but it's a real thing. And I'm gonna show logically how each one of these challenges where we can find ourselves in a situation of I can't, logically we can find humans, not Jewish, not religious, simply a human. Nature has the ability to let go of that and see it with a different lenses. So therefore, this is going to force us, by the end of the class, to let go of the notion that there's something against me. There's something not allowing me. There's some impediment that I can't overcome. And it's going to continue also to impediment of Hashem and the world. That's also perception. And we're going to go through each step. And then we can see the second step, which, so is there no definition? If everything is I can do what I can, so I mean, it's got to be a definition to something. So that could be the next step. So let's take this in a sequence of one by one. So let me ask a question. Let me start off with the paradigm. Two systems, how we look at the world, right? One is passion, and one is IQ. Let me see what kind of talents you have. Let me see what you're good at. Is passion a sickness? Some people could come along and say, you're crazy. I mean, when you see someone passionate, we use the word crazy. You're crazy. That's not for you. What do you think you're doing? It's never going to work out. You're nuts. And people use the word nuts and crazy and overdrive when in context with the word. So is that really me or not me? And obviously, the answer is that's more me than anything else. Let me explain this logically. Humans were created. Each one of us have certain strengths. In the Kabbalah, there's 10 strengths, 10 virtues that humans have. We're not going to go into all 10, but there's 10. Whether it's in processing information, whether it's in behavior patterns, there's 10. There's 3 Chabad and Midas. Chabad is 3 stages in processing information, and from there's 7 interactions we have with ourselves and with others, and it's categorized into 7. Now, certain people are more kind than others. Certain people are compassionate. Certain people have more discipline. So we do have differences. So what do you mean you're going to tell me that I can be as kind as the other if I really want to? I'm not. I don't have that in me. What's this pep talk? What's this inspirational kind of moving thing that you could do it? What do you mean? I can't. But on the other hand, I know deeply inside that if I really want to, I could. So what's going on here? I could or I can't. And you're telling me I could. I saw someone else who also didn't have that leniency, that tendency, and he was able to do it. But I can't. But I'm not. I don't. So why was he able to? What's going on here? It's a kind of conundrum that we have. So what's really going on in the sense of the creation of a person, the sense of who, scientists, logically, who was a person? It's a beautiful example brought down in Kabbalah. And the example given is people are not robots. It's not like I have a tendency, so that's what I am, and that's what I can do, and if you don't have it, you don't have it. So what is it? So the example is a spark. There are 3 stages in a spark. There's a flintstone. A flintstone, you have to really hit it hard for the spark to come out. If you don't hit it hard, the spark won't come out. But the spark is there. The spark is there. Then you have a coal. Coal, you don't see any fire. You hit it a little bit, fire comes out. Then you have a flame. A flame turns into a torch. It's a flame. It's really there. We all have everything. The question is its current form right now. Man was created, period. All the same. We all have everything that any other human has. The question is it a flame, or is it its current stage of entity, of being, in such a stage where I need more effort, and effort would be like the hitting, the perseverance I need to bring out that virtue. The perseverance is like hitting the rock. And what do I need to do it? That's Ratzon. Hashem gave us a gift called, it's a a mind-boggling thing. In Hebrew, there's a saying, "Ein davar oimei b'fnei haratz." There's nothing that stands in the face of a person's, not desire, it's passion. Because desire is a very passive word. It's nothing that stands in the face of a person's passion. Why? Because the soul of a human is not tangible. It's not in a box. Can you weigh it? Can you measure it? So don't measure it and weigh it in the sense of this is what you could do, this is what you can't do. It has the ability to do all of those virtues, and this is a discussion in itself, but this is the context of what passion is defined as. It's the ability to break through and uncover the real you. The spark that exists and is just as it is now, that's how you're created. But that's not defining you. Yeah, of course we have certain I'm leaning towards being a spending person, like we gave an example back then. I'm leaning towards being more stingy, I'm leaning to be very kind, I'm leaning to be very selfish, to be selfless. I have tendencies of because those virtues were for some reason more in the sense of a spark already there in a certain being, in a certain sense of existence within me, giving me a certain feeling. I'm not defined by that. I have the ability to dig further. Not only can I dig further and unleash a super sensitivity of kindness that I wasn't born with, but I also have the ability to unleash a certain interaction, a certain behavior pattern, a certain feeling that I never even thought I had, in the sense of it was me, that was him, he's known for that, I'm not known for that, I can't. No, I was able to do that with perseverance, with ability to passion. Once a person unleashes that ability, passion is an owner. You are the owner of your life. You're not subjected to anything, including the feelings you were born with, the tendency in which you felt initially in the sense of nature. You have the ability. You have within you a lot more. We have, every single one of us have, and we see that in life. You don't have to go anywhere. It's nothing spiritual. This is just simply a definition of life. This is the idea of Ratzon, the idea of passion. We gave many examples, and I'm going to go through them now, in a sense of showing what Ratzon can do in life. And I go through all four challenges and show what Ratzon can do in life. Yeah?
You're going to talk about what is that unleashes that passion?
I'm going to talk about how that passion can break through certain barriers that we never thought it can break through. I'm going to highlight 4 barriers. The first thing is...
But people have that passion in dormant way.
Right.
So what happens to that?
How do we awaken the passion?
Awaken the passion, right? So life circumstances, events in life, experiences, or there's anything else that could awaken that passion, right? So you're saying everybody has the same potential, right? Mm-hmm. Some people have more leniency towards this, some people have more leniency toward that. But how do we engage?
How do we awaken that passion?
Yeah, in ourselves and in others, right? If you're a teacher,
let's start with ourselves and then we get to others. Yeah. That's the key question. So let's answer that question through playing the game of passion. Let's see how it plays out, where it plays out, and then let's try to determine why it played out, which is what they're asking. Why it plays out. How do I get it to play? Let's first see the game of passion. What does it do? Play it out in 2 main areas, which splits into 4, splits into many areas of ourself and how we see ourselves. It all starts with how we perceive ourselves, and then how we perceive the world. And then we'll say, so why did that happen? There's really going to be 2 things in the why. There's going to be one area that passion can be awakened by a person himself, and another area is he's forced to awaken his passion. Certain circumstances force him. He's hit when you hit a brick wall. If I'm walking straight and I hit that wall, I have to turn around and see the doors on the right. I wouldn't hit the wall, I would just continue going, and I wouldn't think to turn. Sometimes we're forced to turn around. Sometimes we force ourselves on our own. Knowledge versus life experiences. But let's see how this plays out. So the first thing, this is number 2. How do we perceive ourselves? And over here, there's a beautiful Hayom Yom. Hayom Yom is a book written by the Rebbe, and it's a little saying for every day. And he writes like this: the person has a responsibility to recognize his talents and appreciate them. Most people think, hey, that's ego. It's egoistic. Telling me to think about my talents. Think about my weakness. I'm not if in a spiritual person, someone who's into self-reflection should think about the weaknesses, No, start with your talents. Hide the talents. Because it's highly crucial that a person should recognize his worth. What are you worth? The areas where you excel right now, you have to recognize that. When you recognize that, the car can't take passengers that has no gas. If you don't have gas, you're not going to drive. You got to start from. You have to have a self. You have to have a self to continue into self-reflection. Start and think about that. There's a spiritual component to that too, but let's just talk about it as a human. The spiritual component is obviously because if it was given to you, then that means to say there's significance, but the spiritual component will lead to the next phase. Here I want to just go through the logically. You have a talent. No one's going to tell you to. Anybody, every single decent human being is going to tell you, hey, you've got it. You think of, look what you got. Then you have to recognize your weaknesses. Now, what's a weakness? What's a weakness? There's a story of a chassid. His name was Yekusiel Lepler. He was a chassid of the Alter Rebbe, first Lubavitch Rebbe. He did not have a good head. He wasn't known to have any great intellectual capabilities. And the Alter Rebbe would say a mimer. And the custom was that the chassidim, when they would travel, they would share the mimer with the city where they're going to share with those chassidim the mimer that they heard in the Alter Rebbe's, in his shul. He would always listen when these chassidim would come back, and he would have that hunger that we talked about in the student, and it would bother him. Why don't I get it? Why don't I get it? Until he really took it to heart, and he just decided he was going to make it. He ended up becoming so capable of the Alter Rebbe, or either Alter Rebbe or the next Rebbe had to write a special mimer for him. He was so talented eventually.
Because he tried so much.
His effort, simply, no spiritual component here besides the fact you don't have to go to chassid. I mean, you have this in life too. I was once giving this class and someone told me that there is a book. Told me, I forgot the name. Told me there's a book, something about how talent is overrated. Which is exactly the same nukuda that I'm talking about, same point that I'm talking about. It's not about what you're born with. It's about the passion you have to it. And how we get to the passion, we'll see soon. The passion breakthrough. Here we talked about in yourself. The first area we're highlighting is within yourself. Within our own weaknesses. Never to allow ourselves to drown. And we are causing ourselves to drown. Not to say, oh, I was born that way, so I can't. We are the ones making that conscious decision and containing ourselves rather than allowing ourselves to grow. The moment we say, how many people say, oh, that's not my kind of thing? Really? Who decided? You just closed the door on an opportunity. You just closed the door on yourself. In Hebrew would say, it's like you close the coffin. You bury the person. The coffin's closed. Why did you close the door? Why did you say it's not for me? Maybe it is for you. How do you know?
I think it's fair to also point out, I understand your point. I also think it's important to acknowledge that, like, sometimes those things that we do to ourselves, we only become conscious of it later. Like, we might be doing something and we can't change it because we're completely unaware of what we're doing that might be harming us until we're able to look back in retrospect and say, oh, wow, and that's the opportunity for perspective. That's sometimes, like, we can't force our perception to change. It's
So
just like something
you're hitting on a similar note, what she mentioned before, which is, so how do I bring myself to an awareness? Sometimes I'm not even consciously aware that I said to myself, it's not for me. That's really what you're saying. And then later on, I realized that I said that and I caused myself not to allow myself to grow. So how do I bring myself to even be aware of that? I mentioned something last class or the class before, which is a very powerful thing. It's crucial in life to have a real friend.
Yeah.
A real friend is someone who can point that out to you. You can also, there's also going to be the second other outside influence, which is circumstances of life can bring us to new realizations, which is what you said in retrospect. But the first thing is the conscious effort that we can make today is finding a real friend who can open us up to constructive criticism. So that's in the sense, but that's in the area of I don't realize that I'm stuck. I don't even have that conscious moment that I said to myself, it's not for me. It's so much not for me that I'm not even thinking it's not for me. It just became not for me, and I'm not even thinking that it's not for me, right? It's like subconsciously there in my head, right?
Would you use the word defensive?
It's a block. It's like a mental block. It's a mental block. I want to bring it on the end. When people say, a scientist comes and says, there's scientific proof that God doesn't exist. Many times I turn around to the scientist and I say, did you have an objective research? Or is there a mental block even before you started the research? There's no God. Did you ever even entertain the thought that maybe you'll find God in science? Or before you started, you already had that conclusion? You're like the judge who already convicted without even having a proper hearing. So we have mental blocks that don't even allow us to have an objective opinion. So is it really scientific data, or is it your subjective theory that you later were able to find some piece of data to corroborate your feeling, your sense of whatever you decided beforehand? So again, that's called a mental block. Many times we have mental blocks. We all have mental blocks, right? Mm-hmm. And the ability to open them up, or even to allow yourself to listen, it destroys that mental block, which allows you to grow. So again, this is within ourselves. So again, first point is, know your strengths. Your weaknesses are not cemented. They're not set in stone. It's a flintstone. You can pull it through. This goes even to a deeper area in life, which is disabilities. They say that someone who has a loss of eyesight can have a sense of hearing that's super sensitive. Isn't that amazing? It's sad, it's scary, but it's also amazing. What's going on over here? Autism. They say that there's certain gifts that these children have that we don't have. They sense certain things that we don't have. How is that changing how we see these kids? Isn't that amazing how you can change your view? They say that I don't remember, I saw an article that they were using the gift that this to somehow with intelligence. Somehow they were able to see things, sense things, just like a dog can have a sense of smell. So they sense beyond my sense. They have a sense of
Like they can
consciousness, that they can feel things differently than we feel. Whatever it means. What am I bringing out? Suddenly a disability becomes a super ability. How scary. 50 years ago, 20 years ago, people thought that these people are worth nothing. Suddenly you found the worth. Perception. All with perception. It even goes to the fourth area of challenges that befall us. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple. And he thanked God that he was fired. That gave him the ability to develop whatever he developed and was rehired as CEO. How many times do we have, in retrospect, true? But suddenly it's not a calamity. We don't ask for these things to happen. But how many times do we say, oh, it's a great thing that I was fired from there because I needed to find a new opportunity. I just needed to go somewhere else. But the moment that these things happen, they're painful. But how do we look at that? Okay, so now let me find something else. Another person sinks into a depression or whatever. But it's how you look at it. So how awesome is it? It's simply our perception of something changes the identity of a situation. It's a weakness. It's a disability. It's a terrible catastrophe. Into wow, it's a good thing that happened. That's within ourselves. That's one category. If that's not powerful enough, let's go to how we perceive the world. Let's go to how we perceive the world. And I'm going to call it, here I'm going to go into even in the Jewish aspect, and this is going to be logically, how we perceive the world. Most people think there's a culture clash. There's a certain culture clash between the culture of Torah and the culture of the world. One way or another it comes across, and we started off with this question. And here you're going to see how perception is. We come to America. We call it the melting pot. There's no culture clash between Chinese and America. Chinese food is accepted. Italian food is pizza. So could you please tell me what the American culture is? So why isn't the Jewish Rosh Hashanah also culture? Just like Italian pizza is culture, and Chinese food is culture.
Hanukkah is culture.
Hanukkah became culture now. So there you go. So why and how do I define a culture clash? In my mind, I define it.
It's not acceptance.
It's simply.
It's just when you're not. Culture clash is when your culture values are contradicting another culture.
How are they contradicting? Where are they contradicting?
Which one?
I'll give two examples that people feel are contradicting. So kosher dining. I'm invited out with someone for a business meeting. They're in a non-kosher restaurant. I'm coming and I'm not eating. It's not nice.
Right.
Well, let me change that scenario. I'm a vegan. They invite me out to a steak restaurant and I say I'm vegan. Oh, we all respect that. That's fine. That's beautiful. We'll get you something. That's fine. So what's the difference?
It's value.
It's my perception of them. When I don't respect myself, no one's going to respect me. People respect. We're born in America is a country where we respect others. That's the whole idea of America. So when I decided in my head that my value is not respected because I don't value it myself, then of course I'm not respected. But when I value it myself, then I will be respected. So who's at fault? Me. There's a beautiful line. Non-Jews respect Jews who respect themselves. Beautiful line. And it's so true.
Non-Jews do not respect Jews.
No, non-Jews respect Jews who respect themselves.
Sure.
And they don't respect Jews who don't respect themselves.
That's right.
So where does it start? Culture clash? Or I have my own clash in myself? So deal with yourself. Don't blame it on others. I go into a place. Female and male, they don't shake. Let's say culture, some people do. And they don't shake hands. The culture clash? People respect, if you hold it as you're not embarrassed of yourself, And then why should someone else not value you? If I have I'm 5'2" and I'm going to a room and everybody's 5'11", if they're stuck up and they don't look at someone 5'2", that's their fault, not my fault. If I weigh 200 pounds and I go into a room that everybody weighs 500 pounds, and for them you have to weigh 500 pounds, that's your problem. It's not my problem. It's stupid, right? But in other things we don't say it's stupid. In other things we're afraid of ourselves. So who caused the problem? Me, myself. A nice joke. A person's on a train. He's dressed like a chassid. So a person comes on a train and starts parading him. He says, "Come on, you live in the 1920. You live in 2015. Come on. Let go of these old things." He says, "I'm really sorry, I'm Amish." "Oh, you're Amish? It's a beautiful thing, keeping tradition for so long. That's just a beautiful thing. I really respect the Amish." Amish you can respect. And a chassid not. It's all in your mind. Whatever you want to find, you'll find. It's a story. There's a lawyer. I once heard the story. There's a lawyer that came in. Did I say the story? I'm not sure if I said the story. There's two stories that I like. There's a story with a lawyer. There's a story with I come from Chicago. This is my next door neighbor. Walk away. It's Rabbi Koket. There's a story with him when he was amazing story when he was 6 years old. So I say both stories. The story is a young lawyer comes at the interview, and he was prepped before the interview. He was an Orthodox Jew, and he had a yarmulke. So he was prepped. He came from an Ivy League college, and he was going into a. I said of the story, right?
No.
I didn't say it. Okay. So he came into a interview. Came into the interview, and he was told before he should take off his yarmulke. He's coming into a top-notch firm. You don't want to stand out. This is your once in a lifetime chance. Get it. So he decides he'll take off his yarmulke. He comes into the interview. He sits there. They grill him. At the end, they ask him, "Where's your yarmulke?" So he said, "You took it off, not to stand out." He said, "You think we don't know you have a yarmulke? We know everything about you. You're great. Your lifestyle, everything. Before we have anybody come in here, we make proper research. One of the things we loved about you is because we're looking for an individual that can stand in court and say what's on his mind and not be afraid of anyone. We need those kind of attorneys who just sheer what's on their mind, are not intimidated. Seems like you're not that kind of person. You can't stand up. You're afraid of your own skin. We saw a yarmulke as a sign of determination. We saw a yarmulke as a sign of you're proud. We need those kind. That's exactly what we wanted in an attorney. It's called being apologetic. It's called being afraid of yourself. No one enjoys being in the presence of anyone who is not a self. And that's the ultimate not self. Flip that. Yeah.
I'm just thinking of this idea of culture clash, and sometimes it gets really complicated because, especially when you're not just dealing with one individual and another individual, but the way populations are interacting with each other. Because, and I hate to bring up a political example, but it's the only one I can think of because I've had a lot of arguments with friends about this. Okay, and I can bring it down to an individual example. Like, say you're dealing with someone and they have a certain value system, but they're not going to tell you what their value system is because they've made a decision that you can't handle it, that you're going to freak out, right? And so as a result, you're interacting with them, but the interaction isn't really honest because they're seeing you as a child and they're seeing you as someone who you can't handle the truth. You know what I mean? So I'm going to act on your behalf because you can't handle reality. And I'm really doing what's best for you, but I'm not going to really tell you what the value system is because I know the value system is better, but you just don't know it yet. And so, you know what I mean? And I feel like this also, the arguments specifically I'm referring to I've had about politics have to do with the Iraq War. I think it was a disaster. We should have never gone there. And we were lied to. And, I've had arguments with people who are like, no, we should have gone there because, and even though we were lied to, it was in the best interest because of this, because of that. anyway, that's so, you know what I mean? I feel like that's a serious culture clash, because you have some people who really do genuinely think, and they are in positions of leadership in this country, who really do genuinely think they're acting in the best interest of the population and of Israel and of everything, but in reality they're not being honest about what the agenda is and what they think is going to happen, what they think should happen, and how everything should play out. And then as a result, people are angry because they feel like we're not getting the whole story. Like, we never really were able to participate in the whole process of, of making a decision. And so it's like there is no clash. There is a clash because there isn't a clash. You know what I mean? Like, there is a clash because people aren't openly, honestly discussing transparently what the value system really is, what the agenda really is, and where everything is supposed to really go. You know what I mean?
So you're bringing up a great example of self-interests and agendas. Politics is really selfish. It's not really about serving. It's about the office. It's about my agenda. And take the Iraqi war, or take any and every topic. Is it oil? Is it a million? Could be a million different reasons that are self-interest that you'll never know. Right? You'll never know. Maybe. Or is it really something? You'll never know. That's true. So let's put politics aside for a second. Now let me try to take real values. Values like, I'm a vegan. When I come into an atmosphere where everyone is just eating pizza, how do they look at me? I start being vegan. I start adapting a certain lifestyle. It's not politics. There's no self-interest. It's a question of life. It's a question of lifestyle. Politics is tricky because you're, on one hand, you're showing the face of values, but on the other hand, most of these people are thinking about votes. Most of these people are thinking about the place, people who are voting for them, what do they want? And then they're just going to adapt the opinion or feeling or whatever self-interest of the people that they're voted. They can't be real, and they're not going to be real because they simply want to stay in office, so it's about votes. So if you can't, politics is not values. Politics is self-interest. Values is lifestyle. And that's like, I gave an example of vegan. Exercise. Example of being honest. Come on, you're too honest. Really? Now, it's integral that when you show values, you're not a hypocrite. If you're really, usually the onus of proof is on the person portraying that value, because many times they also have two faces. We're also politicians. And that's where it gets tricky when we become a politician, showing values but being a chazer. So, politics aside, which is impossible because we're all politicians, right? Which means we have self-interest. The core question is, are values a culture clash? That's what I'm saying. It's never a culture clash. It's in our mind. Once we bring out and we explain how, when I come into a place and everybody has preconceptions, everybody has certain preconceived mishigasen in their head. This person, if they behave that way, they for sure also have X, Y, Z, and they're crazy. They don't think. They don't have any logical explanation to what they do. There's a certain preconception people have about certain people. That's just how they work. So if I'm going to go to a room with those people who think that way about me, I have two choices. Either to be passive, and I'm never going to allow them to open up. Or I could say, I know exactly what you're thinking. I know. I'm telling you what you're thinking. You're thinking, I'll give you an example. I went into a place. I had to check mezuzahs. So I know right away what they're thinking. I'm going to give you an example that's not so heavy. They're thinking, the rabbi's going to come, he's going to sell me $50. He's like a vacuum cleaner. A vacuum cleaner guy, they come in, you need a new vacuum cleaner. What? I don't know, it's not a vacuum cleaner, he's just going to sell me whatever he wants. So before I start, I'm not going to go about prices. I'm just going to tell you what a mezuzah is. I know you're thinking that the prices, and he's just going to sell me on something. What's the difference? This parchment, that parchment, it's all the same. Just throw it in. That's how people think. I know that's how they think. If I would ignore that elephant, I know they're thinking that way. I know they're thinking I'm there to sell them. I'm going to tell you. It takes about an hour to write. If there's one mistake, you have to take it away. There's a certain amount of hours in a day that you can write. You can also a certain amount of hours in a consecutive day that you can write. You also have to have a certain amount of training. You also have to make a living. So now you tell me the price of what you would charge and you would make that. I explained to them a little bit longer, right? Now, let me explain to you the art. You buy art. You buy it. Why is that painting worth this amount? That painting is worth, because it's nice. So there's also just writing something, and there's also a certain art. So in mezuzah is the same thing. It's not the rabbi just blessed it. There's an art to it too. So when you write it, there's one thing, and there's only a certain art. Certain people are sought after because they have a beautiful. Oh, so that's why it's a different price. So when I tell you 40 to 70 muhudr, what I'm saying is, do you want the art? Do you want to go up and have an art, or do you want to have kosher, which is a nice kosher? Oh, so now things make sense. I'm not selling them on something. It's all about awareness. So when a vegan comes into a place and people say, he's Meshuggah, why is he eating this? I know you guys think I'm Meshuggah. Let me just explain you where I'm coming from. I had this in this experience. I had this in this certain amount of information that I'm aware of. And this is why I came to that conclusion. Please, I'm open to any other suggestions. This was what, oh, he's not Meshuggah. He had a reason why he decided. But if the vegan wouldn't open up his mouth, and I wouldn't open my mouth when I came to the mezuzah visit, I would never be able to approach those preconceived perceptions about me. So is it a real culture clash? No. It's like you say, it's a shallow culture clash when we don't approach them. So why do people clash? Because we're not honest with ourselves and with others. I'm afraid to tell him because I think he's not going to like it. Who said?
You can't be in control.
I can be in control of myself.
Right.
So when I have that interaction, tell him. Don't. Why should I expect? Well, they should know. How should they know? They have no clue. Like you said, they have no clue to know. It's my responsibility that when I come into that interaction, that I should be open and honest and allow them to understand who I am. Otherwise, they're for sure going to look at me like I'm Meshuggah.
Also, if you're going into a situation and you're not having honesty, you're completely judging that person and how they might react. So, like, on top of that, like, you're judging them. There's always, like, respect and, like, caution that goes without saying, but I think, like, to assume what a person's response is going to be.
We all do that.
We all do it, of course, but I'm just, like, my point is this, which is, like, it's kind of unfair to that person. You can only control your delivery or your choice to engage in, like, the topic like this. But you can't go around protecting everybody's reactions to your own.
You're not protecting other people's reactions. What you're doing is you're being authentic.
That's what I'm agreeing with you. I'm like,
yeah, right. Yeah. We all have to be authentic in our interactions. Never assume. One of the biggest causes for any area of conflict is assumption.
Judgment.
You should have known. Judgmental and also assumption. You should have known. You never told me. How should I know? Come on, you didn't know? No, I didn't. I didn't. Why didn't you tell me? If I would have known, I would have did it differently. So for me to be authentic, it's like your mother's making the cake. How do you make it? I just do it. Give me the ingredients. I'm not at your level that I can just do it. Tell me A, B, C. Now I got it. They call it in Hebrew alayin. Well, the I. I just you know what you're doing, but I'm not at your level that I can just throw things in. You got to give me half an ounce, right? So this is the second area where I call a culture clash. The other story I wanted to get out was a story of a 7-year-old Rabbi Bucket, my next door neighbor.
A 7-year-old boy.
7-year-old boy. And he was selling pictures of the Rebbe. He used to make pictures. He used to sell pictures of the Rebbe. So after the Farbrengen, he was selling pictures. They went over. So someone approached him. An elderly woman approached him. He says, what are you selling? So he says, I'm selling pictures of the Rebbe. So she tells him, how much are they? This was in 1960 something. So he says they're 15 cents a piece, and I only have 6 left. So she starts looking at them. She's like, it's so expensive. So he turned around and he says, the picture of the Rebbe is too expensive for you? Then don't buy it. 6-year-old. She smiled. She paid him for all 6. She said, I'm going to pay you 25 cents for each. She walks away. Later, someone comes out and says, you know what that lady was? She was the mother of the Rebbe.
Oh,
That's
so cute.
True story. His name is Rabbi Booker from Chicago.
Oh my god.
adorable.
And she, could you imagine the nachas that she had? She saw a young boy who's proud. That's the ultimate difference between being proud and apologetic. Oh yeah, you're right, I'll sell him for cheaper. No, he's proud. He was proud for what he stood for. He didn't know who the lady was. She was a very She wasn't in the public eye. So she was proud. That's what I call proud of them. This is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the second area. That's the area what I call social norms, culture clashes, where you can be proud or you can be apologetic. That's right. That's what the school named after.
Yeah, I also think that there's a lot of
Chutzpah that can go into there.
I think that the example that you're giving is very applicable to becoming more observant. Because the people that know you, they didn't know you when they don't know you, and they know you when you weren't observant.
That's right.
And they have a completely different paradigm as what being observant means to them.
Mm-hmm.
So they haven't become aware of what you have become aware.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see doing more mitzvot the way you see
Mm-hmm.
mitzvot. So you know that you're going to be target.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be
Very
a target. There's no way out. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
And and I'm concerned about that because who likes to be
Mm-hmm.
it is. Who wants to come in, walk in, and be complete a target of all of your extended family that come on,
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like I understand what you're saying. It's like, are you going to start being apologetic as to why you're doing things, or are you just going to say this is what I'm doing, and I can tell you about why I'm doing it. How did I come to this?
Mm-hmm.
But this is what it is.
Mm-hmm. It's exactly like being vegan or healthy today.
Yeah.
The same thing. That's why I give that example all the time. Because it's really the same thing. And you know what? People are slowly, depends where, but the more information there is out there, the more people are adapting to healthier lifestyles. So it's the same thing. It's all about knowledge. And it's all about perception.
It's also about that. But
It's all health, spiritual health.
Spiritual health.
But we have there are many dimensions to health. Even physically, thinking affects a person's health. So different people from different cultures will have their spiritual health is also something that's accepted in the non-Jewish world, which could be talked about. Yes. But today I want to just demonstrate. Didn't get to the end of it. We'll have to finish it next time. I want to just demonstrate logically. And we're going to go to the same thing in the next two areas I wanted to go through. We'll continue this tomorrow. Is business practices and scientific proof. Someone says, I have scientific proof against the Torah. I want to turn everything around and show everything is really perception, and suddenly why certain scientists will tell you they found the Torah through science, and some won't accept God and claim that they have scientific proof to back that. It's all about how they decided to do that. So if it's all our decision, the more we realize how we trap ourselves with our own decision, the more we're now open to ask ourselves, one second, so what is it really? Now we can go to the spiritual component, which you're never going to find in any math book or any science book that's going to tell you why the world, what is behind the world. Just like a student and a teacher. First you have to have a student. Now you can say, so what's the teachings of the teacher? If the student doesn't want to see, doesn't want to open up his mind, nothing will ever help. So first is perception. First is how do we relate? What's our attitude? And that's the number one thing, and that's the hardest thing ever. It's a constant learning process. You realize one thing and suddenly now you're open to another. Before you get to vegan, first get to being open to vegetables, eating vegetables, Before you get to eating vegetables, don't just eat potato chips, Potato is not potato chips. You have to start somewhere, right? So you have to first start and then that opens up a person to something else, and then so the more we open, it's really dependent on us. It's really, really dependent on us. And then we'll get to the second part, which is, so what is the world? Before I get there, the first I wanted to emphasize today, and I will continue this in the beginning of tomorrow, the perception, how powerful our perception is. We'll finish this tomorrow, and then we'll get to the second part, and we'll explain. It's going to be a logical explanation of what the world is supposed to do. And it's going to be beautiful because the world is not a clash, it's a help. Why would God create clash? This is already a spiritual component. God creates. Who's there to know that God creates? Once we open up our eyes to understand there is no real clash, now we can ask, so what is it? But first we have to realize, logically, there's no clash. No one can come and tell me scientifically, which is logically, there's a clash. You can tell me theory. Tell me what you want. Tell me that's what you feel more comfortable with. Tell me you believe in evolution. Fine, you have a belief system. That's fine. Choose your belief system. Don't tell me it's logically. Don't tell me scientifically. That's not true. There's nothing scientifically within the world that negates the Torah. On the contrary, technology helped us understand Torah, helped us understand certain things that the Torah said. Torah said, sees and hears everything. Well, 100 years ago, you never understood that. Today you do, right? Today you have more of an ability to logically understand that. So the technology helped me understand God? Or is technology, in a sense, distancing me? No, it's helping me. The world, science only helps us. The deepest scientists will only be an objective, will only realize how nifloyis habayra. People used to go to the mountains to recognize there's a bigger, it's amazing, more amazing, the more amazing the creator, the person who, how did it happen? So it's about how we engage to the outcomes we get. So if we engage properly without seeing any real culture clash or scientific clash, there's no clash, then we'll be open to understand what it really is, and then we can have the outcomes. So we'll finish with that.